thank you, everyone. Thank you, Mark, for that very kind introduction. Thank you for being here, and thank you for your sincere support and care of the Grand Rapids Christian Schools and Christian education in general. As Mark said, my name is Brad Mockabee, and I'm honored, truly honored to speak with you today. I want to just share a bit about my story and my experiences in a variety of roles here at Grand Rapids Christian. It's my hope that what you take from this is that I'm passionate about Christian education, and that I'm passionate about our mission, and I'm passionate about our schools. I want to share how faithful God has been, not just to me, but to our schools over all these years. I also hope to share with you some of the current challenges, the exciting challenges that we face today as our students change and as our schools change. So, as Mark said, my family moved to Grand Rapids in 1982 from Ohio. I was 5 years old, and I am a Buckeye. Sorry for those of you who got offense. My dad was relocated to work for Zondervan. And my parents, I'm grateful, were strong supporters of Christian education, but we're not Dutch, and we didn't even know what the CRC was at that time. So my brother and I, when we arrived in Millbrook, we were the diversity, I guess, at that time. There was an adjustment period for us, and it's kind of neat that one of the first people I saw today was Pete Yuma, who was my principal at Millbrook Christian, and so it's just really another example of God's faithfulness to our schools. But my 13 years at Millbrook and Grand Rapids Christian High provided me with an amazing foundation and prepared me to serve. It also provided me with an amazing wife. As Mark said, I married my high school sweetheart, Meredith. I always admired my teachers and my coaches. It was because of that admiration that I desired to be a teacher and a coach. I didn't only admire them because of what they taught me, but I think I was envious of the position that they had, that they were in a position to impact young people like me. So I went into education, and I graduated with a Spanish education degree, and I was fortunate to have a job offer from Kellogg'sville Public High School, where I was doing this student teaching. It was an offer to teach Spanish and to coach football, which is what I wanted to do. But there was also an opening at Grand Rapids Christian, and I definitely felt God tugging me back here. It was very surprising. But I felt strongly that He could use me to challenge our students and to help them learn how to serve Christ in their lives. So over the last 17 years at Grand Rapids Christian High, I have been blessed with many, many amazing relationships with colleagues, students, and I've had many different experiences. I'm so thankful. I've been part of a community that's maintained the same strong foundation that has inspired me to serve wherever God called me. From 2001 to 2009, I was a varsity football coach while I was teaching Spanish. What an opportunity to keep our mission in front of 100 or more young men, many of whom were leaders in our school, to remind them of their responsibility and privilege to be Christ's hands and feet as they became servant leaders in our school and in our community. It's interesting that some of those athletes that I coached early on in my career now have their own children here in this school with my daughter. And as I've had conversations with them, I know that they would stand up here and say the same thing that I am. They would talk of God's faithfulness to our schools and to their families. So I'm thankful for that opportunity that I had to coach. I think too often we forget about the impact that our Christian coaches and mentors like Rick Hardenberg is, and the extracurricular activities, the impact that those can have on our young people. In 2011, Jim Primus, who's here, our current CFO and former high school principal, approached me about looking into offering a January term at the high school. After researching some other schools and their programs, it was evident that many students across the country were having life-changing experiences during these weeks. What really jumped out to me was the potential for students to learn about themselves during this time. So we started our winter program, maybe you've heard of that. It's a 2-week interim where students can take unique courses, they can do internships, or they can travel. Our students are doing incredible things, and God is revealing who He has made them to be, and we get to celebrate those gifts. We get to say to our students, God made you just the way He wanted to, and we want to help you figure out how He made you and be the best version of you that you can be. I'm not sure there's a more important message for our young people, especially high schoolers. I remember a dad calling me during my first year as a winter director and saying, "This is absolutely incredible. For the first time in 10 years, my son wants to go to school." And he said for the first time, "I'm good at this." When our students figure out what they're passionate about, it's when they really start to serve. They serve each other, they serve their community, and it's exciting to watch. Easily my favorite role at Grand Rapids Christian has been as a parent. Meredith and I are so thankful for our schools. We have 2 school-aged daughters and a 2-year-old son. Lauren's a 5th grader at the middle school. Hannah's a 1st grader in this building. And like many of you, my greatest desire is that my daughters have a personal relationship with Jesus that is lived out in their daily lives. And I've seen no greater impact on them than their classroom teachers. Each teacher has modeled our mission as a true servant of Christ. Each teacher has been an amazing educator. I could go on and on about each one. I'll share just a couple quick stories. Last year when Lauren was a 4th grader, she had an amazing teacher. And this teacher created extra time specifically for the girls in her class because she started to sense that these girls were starting to get mixed messages from the media, from TV. And she was, I think, really the only person that could have had this impact on these young girls. She talked about what it meant to be a Christian friend and what it meant to be a godly young woman. Those were only things that this teacher could share, and she did it on her own time, during her lunch hour, during breaks, after school. I know it impacted Lauren's life. One other story. 3 years ago, Meredith and I took an unexpected turn, and we got licensed to do foster care. It was never something that we had ever considered, but we felt called. And we ended up fostering and adopting a little boy, who's now our son, Andrew. It was a ton of work. It was very stressful. It was tough on a marriage. It was tough on our kids. And next year, my daughter Hannah could have a 2nd grade teacher who, along with her husband, has taken an amazing step of faith in fostering a young boy, despite being newlyweds. I can't even fathom this level of servant leadership. And I can't wait for Hannah to see her teachers modeling a faithful service and to share this bond with her. These same people that I described are master teachers. They work tirelessly for hours on hours and have a great ability to infuse faith in their instruction. I am so thankful for our teachers. I have been blessed this year to serve on what you would call a district-wide leadership team with our building principals, other curriculum directors, directors of technology and educational support. It's been very rewarding for me professionally. I have learned so much from each member of this team, but it's been reassuring for me as a parent as well. Often because my peers, people my age have kids in our schools, they will say, "What's leadership like in our schools? Are we in a good place?" And I am so excited to say with confidence that our schools are in good hands. My current title is Dean of Curriculum, and I think if you had told me 10 years ago that I wouldn't be involved in athletics, I wouldn't be teaching, and I would be working in curriculum, crazy, but I wake up every morning so excited to go to work. I get to support teachers as they figure out what they teach, how they teach it, and how they respond to the assessment of student learning. A lot of my job is focused on making advancements or changes in the way that we serve our students, both inside and outside the classroom. The mission of Grand Rapids Christian Schools to prepare our students to be servants of Christ stays the same, but our students are different than they used to be. We have challenging but biblical work, exciting work in front of us. So I want to share just a few of those things that we wrestle with daily. If you have kids, grandkids in high school, you see some of these challenges firsthand probably. You see that they're growing up with cell phones in their hands, information at their fingertips. Maybe they aren't good at looking you in the eye or having a conversation at the dinner table. Their entire world is technology. And if we want students to learn, we have to meet them in this world of technology and even social media. It's not always what's the most comfortable for us and for many of our teachers, but we must ask ourselves what's best for student learning. Our mission promises families, promises you, that we will prepare students to serve in contemporary society. And this is contemporary society. We have beautifully renovated facilities with updated technology that includes a one-to-one laptop program. Our challenge is to produce students who not only can send out tweets to the entire world, but can also talk to another person, have a conversation, show hospitality to a stranger, to show students that life isn't all about them, even if that's what they hear and see in social media. We have many different types of students from many different backgrounds in our schools. When I was a student here, we pretty much knew everyone before we even got to high school. Almost every student was from a traditional feeder school. If things got really crazy, we had a couple Ada Christian students, a couple West Side students in our classrooms. That's not the case anymore. 2 years ago, we had students from 42 different feeder schools, different schools, or middle schools in our 9th grade class. So between our very strong international student program and all these new students who choose Grand Rapids Christian, we have become a very diverse place. At the high school, over 25% of our student body is ethnically diverse. And I believe God is smiling about our diversity and that this is His plan for us. Now, anytime you bring people together of different backgrounds, and especially high school students of different backgrounds, it's hard work. But again, it's biblical, exciting work. Students are learning more from each other than they ever have. Our classroom conversations are rich as students hear different perspectives and experiences from students of different backgrounds. I believe that God is not only calling us to racial healing in our schools, in our buildings, but also to lead in our community. And many of you in this room have begun that good work. We are constantly looking for ways to make our buildings healthier places for our students to do life together. We can no longer assume that our students have the same foundation of faith. We do not always know if our students were raised in a Christian home, but we make no apology about the Christian education that they will receive. We currently are examining the ways that we influence students' faith. Historically, Christian education could be viewed as a building with lots of Christians, some Christian culture like chapel, devotions, maybe some verses on the walls, and those are all good things. But this year we've been wrestling as a staff with how do we teach as Christians? We've realized that Christian practices that we model for our students and the things that we get students to do are much more influential in forming their faith than the words that we say to them. Students learn by doing, so we're trying hard to incorporate faith in action. This is the most important work that we do. In the classroom, we've asked teachers to take greater responsibility in knowing where each student is at in her or his learning by regularly assessing each student's learning progress. When I taught, it was very much my practice to feel good if my class grade average was high. If my student average was at 90%, I felt pretty good about myself. This is no longer acceptable. We need teachers to know that each student is learning at a high level. And this is very difficult for a classroom teacher of 25 or 30 students. In fact, we don't believe that this is possible for one teacher. So we've asked teachers to team up and to work collaboratively to create a plan to make sure that all students learn. We've created schedules in our buildings that give our teacher teams this time to collaborate and share responsibility for student learning. These are just a few of the exciting challenges that we're working on at the high school and in all our buildings. We are so thankful for you and for your ongoing support of our schools. We ask that you continue to support us and that you pray for us. Perhaps most importantly, pray for our awesome teachers. It is exhausting work. It's difficult work. And our schools are only as strong as those teachers standing in front of our students. Also, let's all join together in offering prayers of thanksgiving, because throughout many, many changes, God has been so faithful to the Grand Rapids Christian School.